being outside. Garden City Paint and Glass can help you get a head start on all those outside home improvement projects. Now is also a great time to start getting a jump on cracked windows and broken screens. Enjoy up to 25% off select products. And be sure to watch for PPG rebates to help the job along. Look good, stay comfortable, and keep energy costs down at Garden City Paint and Glass. 3217 Brooks or 549-0608.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce two of our best tires ever, just in time for summer. There's our exclusive Reputation, a high-mileage premium passenger tire we believe has the quietest, most comfortable ride ever. Or our exceptionally quiet and smooth all-season traction tire, the Open Range AT. Get $50 off alignment when you purchase a set of 4 Open Range AT or Reputation tires. Book an appointment today at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time only. See details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
The splash of launching a new boat. The quiet of a favorite campsite. The noisy fun of a family barbecue on your new deck. Whatever summer sounds like to you, make it happen with a personal loan from Farmers State Bank. 9 locations to serve you, or start the loan application process online at farmersebank.com. Farmers State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. An equal housing lender and member FDIC.
Springtime is the time to buy a new Polaris off-road vehicle. During the spring sales event, rebates go as high as $1,500 and financing is as low as 3.99%. Live your life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger, or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. Whatever you're looking for, now is the time to take your pick from the off-road's best-selling lineup. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $1,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris Spring Sales event at Kurtz Polaris. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Recreate the right way with Kurtz Polaris, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Offer valid in U.S. through 5/31/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Ryan Tutel, Colter Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Craig Haley, widely considered the national guru of FCS coverage for Athlon Sport, ranked the 2018 national runner-up Eastern Washington number 4 behind North Dakota State, James Madison, and South Dakota State in the first preseason poll of the year. UC Davis, the Co-Big Sky champion, comes in at 5, while Montana State is at 8, and Weber State at 9. Montana is ranked 23rd. The Hero Sports poll, which also came out today, has Montana State at 14, with Montana unranked.
Montana football picked up another transfer on Monday when cornerback Rayshawn Rowland announced he will join the Grizz for the 2019 season. The 5'10", 160-pounder, originally from Arcadia, California, notched 4 interceptions last season at the College of the Canyons, a junior college in Southern California.
Montana State football legend Bill Kohler, a longtime NFL assistant coach currently with the Denver Broncos, landed on the ballot for the National Football Foundation and College Hall of Fame's 2020 induction class on Monday. Kohler was a first-team All-American in 1973, the MVP of the Senior Bowl in 74, and how about this, a first-round draft pick by the Cincinnati Bengals later that year. He played for the Bengals until 1997 before finishing his career with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from 77 through 1982. Figuratively, and then Saturday, literally.
Hopefully he doesn't go over the edge before Saturday.
Hopefully not. We'll tell you what that's all about in just a moment. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We're broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway and Missoula Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Happy to be joined in studio by the executive director of the Missoula County United Way, Susan Hay Patrick. Susan, hi, how are you?
Hello.
Thanks for coming all the way over here. We appreciate it.
No problem. I scored a free CD in your lobby, so it's all
That's
good.
great, and maybe even a bag of coffee to go.
And
huh?
a bag
How
of
about
coffee.
that?
We
Yeah,
should
it's a good
tell the
deal.
people that, actually. Public service announcement. The Trail is giving away all their CDs. We have
It's
so many CDs.
unbelievable.
It's crazy. Come over here.
Yeah.
We got them for you. Just
Yeah,
come over
Somebody
here.
likes Bobby Bear. I saw
Rub it-
2 Bobby Bear CDs. So.
rummage through all of them. Well, Susan, we're excited to have you in here. This Saturday is the second annual Over the Edge fundraiser for the Missoula County United Way. And our very own Tommy Evans. Tommy, you sitting back there, you're going
Sure
over
am.
the edge.
Can't wait.
Now, you did this last year as well, right?
I sure did.
Okay.
He was a rock star on the building last year.
He is
That's
a rock
right.
star each and every day. I can promise
Oh yeah,
you.
I can see a little
promise you
kissing
this.
up is going on in
Now-
the studio.
we have to butter him up so that he doesn't just walk out on us. Well, Tommy, I'm going to ask you more about your experience of this here in a minute, but I want to ask Susan, first of all, the Over the Edge is what? Just tell the people generally
Sure.
what it is.
It is a fundraising event for United Way, but it's a really fun event for United Way. People agree to crowd raise $1,000, and for the privilege, they get to rappel down the side of the tallest building in downtown Missoula, the First Interstate Bank building, on a day when the farmers market is going, and it's just really an amazing and unique experience.
And the crowd kind of gathering,
Yes, they
watching
do.
all the
Yes,
folks
they do.
go over the edge.
Yeah.
Now, this is just this is the second one
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
What was the impetus for this? Like, when did the folks get together and go, hey, I know. We get on the roof and we throw over the ropes and we jump off the side.
So there's no jumping. I must hasten to add. No, it's very safe rappelling, all OSHA approved. We all go to tons of fundraisers in our town. There's a banquet, 4 seasons in Missoula, winter, spring, summer, fall, and then the 5th season is banquet season. Right. So there's a silent auction and a live auction, and there are fun runs, and we wanted to do something unique and different that no one else was doing. And Over the Edge is a national company that does this all over the country. And we thought, why not give it a try in Missoula?
Missoula is such a great community, like you say, with all these events and community outreach and all these nonprofits in town that raise all this money for all these great causes. Tell us about the United Way specifically.
Why, thank you for asking. So our mission is we build a better community. We focus on education, financial stability, and health. Those essential building blocks for a good life, right? We want people to graduate from high school, get good jobs, like right here in radio, so that they can earn for today and save for tomorrow. And then our health is like the foundation and the springboard for everything that we do in life.
Sure.
So United Way programs work on ending homelessness, preventing childhood obesity, getting kids ready to kindergarten, ready to learn. Did I say preventing suicide? That's a big thing that we work on.
Yeah.
We stuff backpacks and pass them out to about 1,000 kids in our community so that they can start school as well equipped as everybody else. We have a disaster fund for floods and fires. So
if people I think are very aware of the United Way. The United Way does such a great job both on a national and a local level of that. But I think sometimes people there's a barrier where somebody may not know, first of all the things that you do, or how to
get involved,
be involved with them, or tap into those resources if they're there. How does that work?
So I would say the best source of information is MissoulaUnitedWay.org. I mean, I could talk for hours about United Way, but you told me I could only talk for a few minutes. So.
Well, let me go get a latte, and you just start rolling. Okay,
yeah, you got
I'll bring
good
back one for the
You
group.
got good coffee here.
Yeah.
So we work with everybody in town, and by that I mean nonprofits, companies, foundations, the faith community, both hospitals, the university, the school system, to identify problems in education, financial stability, and health, get everybody at the same table to figure out solutions, implement solutions, measure results, and go from there.
And that's one of the great things, right? Because the United Way itself does a lot of things independently, if I might say, to help, but also does a lot of things to facilitate and help
Absolutely.
in a connection with other organizations and people across.
Hey, we're hiring in development and marketing, so if this radio gig doesn't work out, I mean, you got the spiel down.
Let me tell you something. We got more employees here than we know what to do with. They wouldn't miss me for a second, So maybe we'll see.
Yeah, no, you are on message. I really appreciate it because the studies show that United Way has one of the world's most valuable brands, and something like 97% of Americans recognize the name, but about 66% know what it is we do.
Right.
So I'm always trying to, come on shows like this and talk about how we are that community convener and collaborator.
Susan Hay-Patrick, the executive director of the Missoula County United Way, in studio with us. And again, Saturday, Over the Edge fundraiser. Folks are going to go up to the top of the First Interstate building during the Farmers Market Saturday morning and rappel off the edge. And Tommy, you did this last year. You're doing it again this year. What was your experience of, deciding to dip off the side of the building there last year?
I found out how many people really do love me because people were almost offering up their goodbyes leading up to this thing. Are you sure you're really going to do this, Tommy? Are you pulling our leg? And then we went out there and did it, and it was so much fun, and to see such support from the community out there for an organization doing so many great things, which I'm well aware of. For folks who don't know, I work part-time in education in Missoula. So I'm aware of what United Way does and see the impact, particularly when it comes to the educational element and suicide preventative tactics and strategies. It's huge what you guys do, Susan, and so I'm thrilled to be a part of it.
So grateful to you for doing this again and to the company for sponsoring.
And Tommy, you're going to be down there. You're going over the edge again, but then are you and Robert Chase going to be down there doing some more radio stuff too? Is that what's going on?
We'll be spinning tunes down there. We've moved those CDs onto the digital medium.
Nice.
Awesome. And there will be an adult beverage
of
the beer variety.
Ryan sold. He'll be there.
Once you get off the side of the building you
exactly.
kiss terra firma again, it might be time for a barley water. Yeah. Let me ask you this, Susan. If people want to get involved with this even now, it's only 4 days away. What can they do?
Right. They can go to MissoulaUnitedWay.org and sign up. They have until June 30 to crowd raise. You'll get a special link. And you know what? It's not that hard because it is unique. Or maybe it's just that a lot of people want to see me go over the side of a building again. But I think there's some truth to that. But it is sort of unique and fun. And it's not all that scary. Like, I have a really big fear of heights. And I did this last year to conquer that fear of heights. And it was amazing. The only scary part is when you're up there at the very beginning and you're standing on this little bar and you're all, strapped in and all your equipment, and they say, sit back. And you sit back in thin air. But if there's that moment of hesitation where, really? Are you kidding me? Right, Tommy?
100% accurate.
But then it was a lot of fun, and it's so safe. They've never had any issues. They've done this all over the country for many years, and they train you right beforehand. And you're in control of the speed of your descent.
Well, you clearly did conquer your fear because you came all the way up here to the second floor to do this interview. So
right, exactly. I was sitting in my car sweating for a while, but then I made it up to the second floor.
So was Coulter, actually, all day.
I was running the stairs before the show trying to find my computer, but here we are.
Well, Susan, this is great. Again, the United Way fundraiser Over the Edge is Saturday, this Saturday morning, the First Interstate building. You're going to be down at the market anyway. Go pay a visit. Go say hi. Contribute. Be involved. And again, go online. Give them the website again, Susan, where they can
MissoulaUnitedWay.org.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you guys for having me.
Next. Todd Johnson, Missoula Youth Sports. What are your kids going to do this summer? Get them out of the house.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump. Ooh, pump it up. Pump it up.
Ready to stock up on some party drinks? Town Pump is your store. We've got 18 packs of Twisted Tea for only $18.99, and grab a few bottles of Apothic 750 milliliter wine for a low $9.99. Town Pump Food Stores, proud to be part of our community.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
In
Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, but we also know that you're going to pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it. Well, not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with a staff of specialists that can answer any question. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and, are you ready, lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
Back in 1984, most bars served two kinds of beer, regular and light. That was before Kurt and Rob Widmer changed the beer industry forever. 35 years ago, Widmer Brothers Brewing introduced the world to Widmer Hefeweizen. The naturally cloudy brew starts with the highest quality wheat. Its bold, clean flavor, pronounced citrus, and floral aromas are what define American-style Hefeweizen. So pour yourself a cool, cloudy glass and enjoy the original Widmer Brothers Hefe, the beer that started it all.
Hey everybody, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you different?
At the Advocates, we primarily focus on injury cases. That gives us the experience and the knowledge to correctly evaluate your case and work with insurance companies and other attorneys so you get exactly what you deserve to make you whole again. We take really good care of our clients, and we're going to fight for every single dollar you deserve.
Call 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
Still emerging from your winter hibernation and need to get your bearings straight? Cruise on down to Port of Missoula for all your spring and summer needs. Come check out their men's and women's streetwear, sunglasses, and shoes from brands like Vans, Adidas, Thrasher, Volcom, and the original Port of Missoula brand. They also have all your skating needs covered, from tune-ups to fresh-made custom boards. Port of Missoula, Missoula's original board shop since 1989, on the Hip Strip, 618 South Higgins.
Hey, Tutel Nuanez here. Can't tell you how many times we've heard the face for radio joke since we came on SWX television, but it's been a fun endeavor so far.
And now our esteemed producer Tommy is pushing the envelope even further. We got our own YouTube channel.
That's right. If you want to watch us every day from your computer, your tablet, your cell phone, you can check out Tutel Nuanez on YouTube.
Tutel Nuanez, live every weekday from 4 to 6 in the afternoons on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula, SWX Montana statewide, and now around the planet Earth on YouTube.
Tutel and Nuanez. Listen to the podcast on the TuneIn Radio app or on iTunes, 1029ESPN.com.
From the United Way. Looking out for the youth to soccer. Looking out for the youth. It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Find us on Twitter at Gus Tutel, at 102.9 ESPN, and at Skyline Sports MT. We just keep the doors turning around here.
That's right. Summertime, baby.
In studio with us, the president of FC Missoula, Todd Johnson. Todd, how are you? Great to have you in.
Doing great. Yeah, and thank you, Ryan.
We have a ton of stuff to talk about soccer in this town, about a great camp that you got coming up, about youth sports through the summer. But the first thing I got to ask you is this, okay? Because it's June 4th. It's been warm out for like 4 days.
Right.
You are tan, my friend.
I am tan.
You look like you've been in some sunshine here. Now, what do you know that we don't know?
You know, Ryan, it's a combination of soccer.
Yes.
Even though maybe you haven't had the heat, if you have some sun,
you can
still get a little bit of shade.
Get a little look.
Yeah,
that's
and
great.
then also I'm going to say I'm an avid golfer. That doesn't mean necessarily that I'm a good golfer, but I do play golf. And so that's probably the combination of the two is why I'm a little tanner than most right now.
If I can say, glistening.
Appreciate that. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Todd, let's talk a little bit. We're going to get into FC Missoula and all that stuff specifically, but you as a soccer player and into the sport, and Missoula has a great soccer community, and really the state of Montana, by and large, is a very a healthy soccer state.
Sure.
Where did you get into soccer? What made it something that you wanted to pursue into adulthood and be a part of and teaching kids and all that?
Yeah. So I grew up in Montana, and as most adolescents, I played many different sports, whether I was good at them or not. I eventually, my main sport going into high school was golf. But soccer was one of them through YMCA in Helena. And it was just one of those, as a kid, you look at sports a little bit differently, right? Not just soccer, but just any youth sport. And it's one of those things where winning to a child is by points, by score, whether it's baseball, soccer, basketball, football, or any other sport out there. Well, as you grow older, you tend to look at sports a little bit differently, and especially once you have children. So I have two daughters, Abby and Lily, that actually I was just at a graduation barbecue for my daughter, Abby.
Wow,
who, eighth grade barbecue, so she's heading off to Big Sky next year.
Good for her.
And she played soccer, but she's gone into some other things. Now, Lily, on the other hand, she's all full-bore soccer.
Yeah.
And so when you get older and you have your children and you're looking at the framework of, you want to win on the field, and let's just say it's soccer, but you also look at it from the perspective of teamwork, communication, confidence, everything else that the kid's not even thinking about, right? But as an adult, as a parent, I look back at my sporting days, whether it was those sports or the sport that I eventually really took serious into, which was golf, it taught me so many life skills that I didn't even know that I was creating back then, right? And so that's probably the reason why I got into this. My daughters were obviously playing sports, but I took the president role about 2.5 years ago. And I really wanted to have a positive impact, not only for my children, but for also other youths here in the community in many different ways. Giving an avenue for our children to play something or be involved in something that has positivity to it, are usually around pretty darn good kids and adults. As you know, the world has changed. Yeah. It's not the same thing anymore from like 20, 25 years ago with just media and what kids have access to. And I'm not saying it's all bad, but man, there's a lot of influences out there that you can get a hold of. So that's kind of why I really wanted to get into it. And I tell you what, the last 2.5 years, developing not only my children, but just watching other children develop, not only by an athletic standpoint, but also just those other things that those traits that you want to have your kids to develop into. So that's kind of the reason why.
I grew up in Missoula and I moved away for about a decade. And when I came back, I could tell how much the soccer community around here had grown, not only just in the number of kids that are playing it and the success that you guys are having both at the club and the high school levels, but also, the renovation of Fort Missoula. I mean, now it's one of the premier soccer and rugby places in the entire region. I mean, it's amazing down there. It's awesome. But where do you hope FC Missoula fits into just the fabric of this growing community, and what have been some of the main things that have contributed to such a boom in the sport over the last 10 or so years?
I think it's one of those sports that both is a huge interest, whether it be boys or girls. There's certain sports like football that obviously is more of a male-dominated sport, but man, soccer is one of those universal sports that not only is it a team-based dynamic, but you are also looking to maybe advance yourself to a high school competitive level, playing soccer for, say, Big Sky or Hellgate or Sentinel. And then also aspirationally looking beyond that, collegiate soccer. And that's what we do as a club. And that's why I think it's growing is it gives those kids the opportunity, just like me as I was a golfer. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a PGA professional. Obviously, I wasn't good enough. There's a lot of things that you contend with in the state of Montana, meaning you can only play golf like 4 or 5 months out of the year.
That's also why I
that's
didn't
not a
go
good
to
thing.
the tour. It was weather-related.
Well, and the fact, it became a wide-open experience for me at golf, just sports in general, is when I went to Arizona State University, and I went over to the Karsten course, which is where Arizona State was playing at the time, and Phil Mickelson was on their team. He was their number one player, and right behind them was Miller Barber's kid. And I watched them for about 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, I think it's going to be a recreational sport for Todd Jones.
You're from the sunny areas of the country. That's what's going on there, Todd. Don't let them get you down. If they had their practice time cut in half, it's a whole new ball game. Todd Johnson joining us, president of FC Missoula, and now Todd, the FC Missoula has a kids camp coming up this in about 2 weeks' time, the 17th through the 20th of this month. Tell them about this camp, what it's going to be, and what folks that want to sign up, how they can do it.
You betcha. So the camp is, I'm going to say, number one, it's all about having fun. Our kids have been in school for the last 8-9 months or whatever it may be. It's a camp that are ages anywhere from age 4 and 5-year-olds are a half-day camp Monday through Thursday, and then of course 6 through 14 years of age is going to be the full-day camp, which runs from 9 to 1:30. And last year, just to give you reference, is we had roughly about 90 kids out there.
Yeah.
Kids that play FC soccer, other kids that just saw a flyer at their school and wanted to give it a whirl. Some were definitely more skilled than others, but it didn't matter. And so when you have coaches, former coaches, we even had one of the coaches was a lady that was a former Lady Grizz soccer player, which kids thought was pretty neat.
Yeah.
And so it's all about, yes, learning some skills, fundamentals during the week, but man, also about just having fun. They set up great games, and then of course on the last day last year, which we'll do again this year, is the ice cream truck shows up.
Oh yeah.
So you think about that with kids. What's the last thing they remember about that camp? Not soccer.
Probably the only thing they remember about that.
I mean, it looked like a soccer ball on top of an ice cream cone, but it was ice cream, not a soccer ball.
Ryan's kids are probably listening right now. They probably want to go just because of the ice cream.
I'm pot committed with that one, my friend, no doubt. Well, and it's great though too, because when you think about club soccer, a lot of times people think about a commitment of some large amount of time, maybe an expense, et cetera, et cetera. This is a great entry point for kids who, first of all, will just want to see, well, do I like soccer? Do I enjoy it? Meet some of the coaches and the folks associated with FC Missoula. And then from there, a conversation opens up, well, hey, maybe this is a sport that really, would be fun to pursue in a more, longer term scenario than the camp. But even with the camp, get outside, go play some soccer, have fun for a week. You're going to have a great time doing it, right?
Just right on the head there. It's a combination of, we want to make sure every kid has an opportunity if they want to join our club. Whether it is truly just recreational soccer, they're not going to take it beyond club. But man, they're going to have a good time. They're going to meet good kids, learn some of those traits I talked about a little while ago. And then we also want to make sure that we give the opportunity for those one athletes that's like, I want to take it to high school. I want to take it to collegiate soccer. We want to make sure that we have those opportunities and resources available to them through the club to say, hey, listen, we think there's a camp out in California that, you know what, we're going to go ahead and bear the expense because we think you're good enough. And you have shown that you are committed to club soccer and FC. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to give the opportunity to everybody.
If people want to sign up for either the club or for the tournament, the camp, just to be involved in it, where do they need to go to do that?
Got to go to fcmissoula.com, and you'll see right there on the main homepage, you'll see the 2 registrations for the 4 to 5 year old campers, as well as the 6 to 14, and also registrations.
Pretty straightforward. fcmissoula.com. A great thing for your kids to be up to for 4 days, and then maybe even longer, maybe a lifelong sport that they're getting into. Todd, really appreciate you being here. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ryan.
It is our youth sports segment. Todd Johnson president of FC Missoula. It's presented by Pepsi Cola. Pepsi Cola of Missoula, proudly supporting youth sports. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 straight ahead. What's going on at the University of Idaho? Nothing good next.
At the Montana Club, our goal is to create a menu of mouth-watering food with variety to satisfy any craving. From the garden-fresh ingredients in our salads to our succulent, perfectly grilled Montana Club Angus steaks, we take pride in every detail that goes into preparing your food. Top off your meal with a premium cocktail, wine, or microbrew. Come as you are and satisfy your craving with our home-style breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River. Hey folks, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates. Josh, do most injury accidents end up in court?
Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court through a fair negotiation with an insurance company. However, sometimes it is necessary. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get a fair settlement. Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court with a fair negotiation with the insurance company. However, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get the right settlement for you.
It's Josh at the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
Here at Florence Coffee, our Huckleberry Lemonade is a favorite to our lineup of refreshing summer drinks. For a fun twist on my favorite drink, you can get it made with our house-brewed iced black tea or soda water for a fizzy treat that's sure to beat the summer heat.
So stop by any Flowco locations throughout western Montana and visit FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
The best flavor under the big sky. Florence Coffee Company.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Father's Day is fast approaching, and we know we have plenty of dads out there worth celebrating. And what's better than celebrating Father's Day with your pops by hitting the links?
No doubt. All I want to do is go golfing for Father's Day, and that's what we're going to do for one of you, right, Coulter?
We have a stay-and-play package that includes accommodations in a Lewis and Clark room at the historic, gorgeous Sacagawea Hotel in Three Forks and 2 18-hole rounds of golf at the Headwaters Golf Course.
Listen to Tutel and Nuanez all week long and call in with your best story about Dad to register.
Happy Father's Day from Tutel and Nuanez.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Craig Haley, widely considered one of the national gurus of FCS coverage for Athlon Sport, ranked 2018 national runner-up Eastern Washington, number 4 behind North Dakota State, James Madison, and South Dakota State in the first preseason poll of the football year. UC Davis, the Co-Big Sky champion, comes in at number 5, while Montana State is number 8. Weber State is number 9. Montana is ranked 25, giving the Big Sky 5 teams in the top 25 in this first poll of the year. The Hero Sports poll, it also came out today. Montana State was at 14. Montana was unranked.
Montana football picked up another transfer on Monday when cornerback Rayshawn Rowland announced he will join the Grizz for the 2019 season. The 5'10", 160-pounder, originally from Arcadia, California, notched 4 interceptions last season at the College of the Canyons, a junior college in Southern California.
Montana State football legend Bill Kohler, longtime NFL assistant coach with and now with the Denver Broncos, landed on the ballot for the National Football Foundation and College Hall of Fame's 2020 induction class yesterday. That's when he landed on it. Kohler was a first-team All-American in 1973, the MVP of the Senior Bowl in 74, a first-round draft pick by the Bengals that year, and he played with the Bengals through 1977 before finishing up with the Buccaneers from 1977 through 1982.
With broken hearts, broken words, never meant to be spoken. Oh, everything is broken.
Is that Kenny Wayne?
Kenny Wayne Shepherd?
Oh, yeah. Love Kenny Wayne Shepherd. Kenny Wayne Shepherd and Johnny Lang, 2 of my favorites.
Is that right?
Love them.
Here in about 20 minutes or so, we are going to take your call for a Father's Day story. We're sending one of you with another person. So it's 4-2, but only one winner. The winner gets to choose the other person, the accomplice, on an overnight for 2 at the Sacagawea Inn in Three Forks, and a couple of rounds of golf at the Headwaters Golf Club there. So get ready for that. Gio did a great job, gave us a great story yesterday. Speed your best Father's Day stories, all we're looking for. Not even Father's Day, best father story. Maybe about you as a dad, maybe about your dad, maybe a dad you know. I don't know, whatever it is. Tell us a story, and we'll pick the one that we like the most on Friday, and it's just that simple. Send you over on a great Father's Day adventure. Tutel Nuanez, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the first hour of the show, check it out on the podcast, available on the TuneIn Radio app. Is iTunes still alive?
According to Tommy, no.
I'm not even talking to either of you guys ever again, particularly about iTunes.
Why am I'm on your side, Tommy?
Are you sure about that?
It's on the
this has
TuneIn
always
Radio app.
been me and you versus Ryan. Don't you know that?
And Spotify, and the station website, and iTunes. Podcast available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. You can also check us out on the stream. Opportunity Bank brings us the stream. Your local bank, your opportunity. And again, call in about 20 minutes from now, 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Raggage Brothers RV phone line. Colter, this is something we wanted to talk about yesterday.
Let's do it. Let me get a couple quick hitters in here just so we get these off the books, because I do think this is a couple things that have happened in the Big Sky that are of interest of people. They're not really worthy of extrapolating on, just kind of quick hitting news bulletins. So number one, Dwayne Morgan, who's a 6'9" swingman from Southern Utah. He's a guy that he was a top 50 player coming out of high school, Baltimore, Maryland. He went to UNLV, which was a surprise decision. He was in the mix to go and play in the ACC. Chose UNLV. Couldn't hang at UNLV, went to Southern Utah, been one of the most physically talented players in the league, no doubt.
When you see him, you go, well, what's he doing here?
Exactly.
Because
he's the first guy off the bus.
Giant, athletic stallion.
But he's struggled really bad with shoulder injuries last 2 years. But he was granted a 6th year of eligibility for Southern Utah men's basketball, so that'll be interesting to see how he fits in. Jarek Harding declared for the NBA draft out of Weber State, but he will return to school, unsurprisingly. But he got good feedback. I think he had workouts about 5 different teams. It was a good article in the Ogden Standard Examiner just about his journey, what he learned and stuff like that. But he's a guy that will be certainly in the run for Weber State's all-time scoring record and maybe in the mix for Tyler Hall's all-time scoring record. It would take a pretty big year, but not out of the question. He's about 700 points shy of Tyler Hall's scoring record. So, that would be pretty amazing if we had Bogdan Blizniuk, Tyler Hall, and Jarek Harding go 1, 2, 3. And, basically break the scoring record 3 times in 4 years after the thing stood since 1994. A sign of the times as much as anything,
yes.
But also a sign of just the talent that's been in the league, too. And the third bulletin is Trayvon Strong, who's a Billings Skyview product, who was a true freshman starter at Montana State in 2015 as a corner, who then left the program after his sophomore year. He kind of got sideways with Jeff Choate and the staff, and he transferred. He ended up transferring to Utah, which was a rare transfer up. Played some special teams at Utah, but he will play his last year. He had previously said he was going to play his last year in his hometown of Billings at Rocky Mountain College, which I thought he was going to, a guy who can hang in the Pac-12. He's probably going to tear it up at Rocky. But he instead is going to go to Southern Illinois. So he will be in the FCS for his last year of college sports, college football.
So he played as a true freshman, transferred, redshirted
so he played
on the
as
transfer year?
He trained as a true freshman. Then his sophomore year was Jeff Choate's first year. Then he transferred again to Utah, sat out, and then he transferred this final year to play his 4th and final year.
But will he not have to sit out because he's?
He will not have
to
sit out because he's going down. Dropping down.
Got it.
A rare guy who went up and then went down.
Yeah. Well, sounds like me. Can I do it? The golf course. Dad jokes. Got him all day, up and down. A skunk was arrested for counterfeiting. He apparently gave out bad sense. All day. Got him for you. Just trying to put Tommy in a better mood.
Okay, let's talk about the one of my least favorite emerging phrases in the American lexicon is dumpster fire. I hate that. I hate when people use it.
Yeah.
But University of Idaho Athletics is dumpster fire right now. This is it's smoldering.
It's burned up, and now it's just ashes and charcoal. Here's what the entry point to this is for today. That late last week, Don Verlin, the head basketball coach at Idaho, was placed on administrative leave. Now, we absolutely need to point out, this is paid administrative leave. Generally, when it's paid administrative leave, it is not that big a deal, if one can say so. And based on what we're seeing, what's coming out about this one I don't chalk up to much of anything. It's just another bad look. The most minor of bad looks for a institution and a department that has just been in chaos and upheaval for the last 24 months. But Don Verlin is on paid administrative leave from the team for what appears to be practice violations, where one of the rules, among many others, that the NCAA has is you can't bring in guys who aren't on the team to practice with the team. You're not allowed to do that. And all the ins and outs of reasons of why and equity and whatever, okay, it's fine. But also, I don't know. Is it like speeding? I mean, okay, the speed limit's 65. I'm doing 68. Am I in jail now? Is that what's going on here? So, look, reportedly, going back a couple of years, on a couple of occasions, somebody came in, a former player who is not on the team, to then practice with the team. Now, you're not supposed to do it. You're not allowed to do it. It is a rule break. And if that's, in fact, what happened, this is all alleged at this point, it's investigated or whatever, I don't chalk that up too much of anything. And Don Verlin's been a good coach in the Big Sky Conference for a little while now.
The Idaho basketball program is an interesting analysis because they were pretty good in the WAC, and they actually were very good first couple years back in the Big Sky, peaking with the team that chased Montana all the way down the stretch and then beat Montana in overtime in Moscow and finished alone in second in the league behind the Grizzlies.
And then lost their first postseason game and didn't want to play anymore, even though they had another.
I mean, obviously it fell apart internally because you had guys like Vic Sanders and B.J. Blake and Perry Collins, some of the best players in the league,
gone.
And they just basically gave up against Southern Utah and, just said bye-bye. But anyways, as far as the situation goes right now, the university said it's quote-unquote a fluid situation. The one thing to remember about these are 3 self-reported potential violations. So no confirmation that these are actually violations. I don't know. Sometimes when you self-report, you think that it would give you more leeway, but it doesn't necessarily. Totally. It kind of just depends on who you are.
Yeah.
When North Carolina and Texas self-report, it all goes away, it seems. When other schools self-report, most of the violations the University of Montana had were self-reported, and they got the hammer.
Yeah.
They got probation and scholarships docked and all this stuff. So the one you were talking about is a director of ops was practicing with the team. Idaho was down to about 8 players last year, so they obviously needed some extra bodies.
Yeah, they went from the oldest team in the country to one of the youngest.
I think the
teams
second
in the country
youngest team in the country.
After they graduated like 6 seniors from that team 2 years ago. And look, if you're not supposed to do it, you're not supposed to do it. Okay, but also, it's not exactly siphoning money or faking classes or some of the other things.
But that's the thing. That was the one that was leaked. There could be
academic
a couple other things, but Mike Walsh, who's the sports information director there, and he's been kind of the spokesman for this thing, he said that this was the violations were reviewed by a firm, a third-party firm called Ice Miller, and the Ice Miller review said that the perhaps violations were fairly common.
Yeah.
It says schools initiate such performance reviews to ensure they're in compliance with the NCAA rules. So, all that said, it sounds like it's not that major, but the fact that he's on administrative leave points to the fact to me that there might be more to this thing.
Maybe.
And the other thing that is going on here is that Idaho has had 6 players enter the transfer portal this offseason, including Cameron Tyson, who, a lot of times who wins the postseason awards has a lot to do with team success. And no slight to Bodie Hume from Northern Colorado. Hume's a very good freshman. I thought Cameron Tyson was the best freshman in the league last year. Cameron Tyson broke Tyler Hall's single-season record for 3-pointers by a freshman. I think he hit close to 110. He averaged 15 points per game. I mean, he was a sharpshooter. He knocked down 4 threes in the first half against the Cats, and the Cats had Montana State, or Idaho had Montana State, on the ropes. It seems like there's a lot of tumult inside the Idaho men's basketball program, and that is sort of just the latest to an athletic department that has a bunch of tumult internally.
First of all, Idaho has the ignominious distinction of being the only school in the history of schools to go from the FBS to the FCS in football. They're the only ones who've ever not been able to make it after having taken a step up and falling back, or open and then gone backwards. The other thing is with Paul Petrino as the head coach. Now, Paul Petrino he's an interesting character, right? If we know. And he's done some things that he, has acted some ways towards a member of the media that he has even come out and apologized for having acted in, said some things and being in some ways it shouldn't be. That is, it's what it is. It's a personality trait, and that's not the end of the world. There have been a number of other issues of guys reportedly taking a little 5-finger discount at the stores with some clothing items and so forth, them being found out. Miraculously, those clothing items being found again later in the store, back where they were supposed to have been or something along these lines. And also, the biggest one is going back into 2012, 2013, several members of the football team or members of the athletic department, students, male students in the athletic department, some of whom were members of the football team, reportedly were accused of malicious sexual acts, including physical sexual violence, and that was misreported or mishandled by the administration. It has cost athletic director Rob Spear his job. He was fired. Now the president, who has been the president, Chuck Staben, he is under fire from a group of boosters who write an open letter saying they don't think he's fit for office any longer. He is no longer renewed. In fact, he's a week away now from no longer being the president. And C. Scott Green is taking over as the president as of July 1. I still don't know what the athletic director situation is at Idaho. And they have continued to, on all of the major profile programs and all of the administrative positions from the president right on down through the coaches, had scandal and turnover. And this is not to say that any one individual, you can't sit here and go, oh, well, this guy's a bad guy, that guy's a bad guy, this person did this bad. But if people are being fired, not renewed, put on administrative leave, and it's happening over and over and over, there is obviously an issue that is circumspect within the entire department and maybe the university at large.
This was just such a gross mishandling of all these allegations by these young women in the Idaho Athletic Department, too. I mean, basically, Rob Spear and Paul Petrino both just said that the guy who was being accused of this is not a threat, and they didn't really do anything. They basically demeaned the girls that were making these accusations, and then they turned out to be largely true. Then they also had a sexual assault on campus at the dorms later on, and Idaho and Montana are rivals, no doubt, even though Idaho was outside the Big Sky for a long time. But to me, it just seems like this was not learning from the mistakes of other places. I mean, this is a hot button and important and very inflamed issue right now in America, and a lot of that is a good thing. I mean, they were taking care of a lot of things that have been brushed under the rug for a long time. A lot of it stemming from athlete entitlement, toxic masculinity within college football, and the fact that the University of Idaho has had a lot of similarities to the University of Montana. That's not a good thing, and I think that Montana had to learn their lesson the hard way, and now Idaho might have to as well. It's interesting to me that Chuck Staben is out. Rob Spear is out. Don Verlin is on administrative leave. But it seems though, even though the stuff that basically got Rob Spear fired stemmed from Paul Petrino's football program, and the recent sexual assault stuff stems from Paul Petrino's football program. It seems interesting to me that he seems to be the one that's insulated so far from all of this stuff. But it's not a good situation to be in if you're Idaho when you talk about the optics of all this stuff, because like we just said with Don Verlin, you can dive into this, and of what we do know right now, it seems just like the NCAA picking on the little guy for really no reason at all. I mean, what sort of advantage is a Idaho team that finished last in the Big Sky getting from having their manager practice with them? They're getting no advantage from that. But the optics of it, when you just see the headline in the Spokesman Review, Don Verlin put on leave. It's like, well, what's next at Idaho? Everybody is in trouble over there right now.
It's that very thing. It's not even we had to dig in to even figure out what the alleged infraction was. And when you read it, you go, oh, well, okay. But the headline is, and the thing that's public is that Don Verlin's on administrative leave. you know? And you're right, it is interesting. You know, this group of 14 members of one of, if not the major booster group for the University of Idaho, wrote this open letter that Chuck Staben be removed. It wasn't that Paul Petrino be removed. And by the way, I don't know that you talk about this stuff that's connected to the program, to the football program, and it is. And also, Paul Petrino comes with a certain reputation as well. But certainly I don't know of anything where I sit here and go, well, Paul Petrino did this or covered this thing up and shouldn't be there.
Sure.
That doesn't exist to my knowledge.
Sure.
And so I certainly am not going to sit here and say, well, he's the guy. But generally, when you're talking about looking at all of the positions, and the one guy who's still standing at this point at Idaho is Paul Petrino. Pretty interesting. I will say this. Generally speaking, with a football coach and an athletic director at a university, if the athletic director is not the one who brought in the football coach, or the athletic director arrives after a football coach, there's where there's some disconnect between the way that they arrive together, usually one or the other is no longer there. And if Rob Spears, the guy who brought in Paul Petrino, and now Rob Spears gone, when the next athletic director comes in and C. Scott Green, who will be the new president as of 20 days from now, or 25 days, has plenty, I'm sure, to deal with as he sits at the office of president, that will be one thing. And, you know, that is probably going to tell the tale of the future of, obviously, the athletic director in general, and specifically the football and basketball programs. But no good things going on right now at the University of Idaho in Moscow. That is for sure. It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Okay, we want to take your calls because we want to hear your stories, okay? We're sending somebody over to Three Forks for a stay and play at the Sacagawea Hotel. Great is that. One of the iconic places in the state of Montana to go as to stay the night, have a great spot experience. What a location and what a great historic building it is. And then a couple of rounds of golf for you at the Headwaters Golf Club. Take your calls. What we want is your best story about dad. Whether you're a dad, whether you got a dad, whether you know a dad, anything, any good story you got. 329-1899. Call right now. 329-1899. We registered Gio yesterday. We're going to register one person all week long. Last of the week, we'll take the best story. We'll take the one we thought was the most interesting to us. So give us a call, 329-1899. Story about dad and a little bit of NBA next.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift this summer or any time of year. If you are traveling, bring a gift that is distinctly Montana and give your loved ones some of the best spices anywhere around. From the Alpine Touch Pick 4 Spice Pack to the All-Purpose Twin Pack to the mouth-watering sunflower shoots to Alpine Touch gift cards. Alpine Touch makes the perfect Montana present. Available at retail locations around the state or online for a limited time. Use the code ESPN10 at checkout to get 10% off any online order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh from the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, if our listeners have been injured in an accident, how can you help?
We're here to help you after a car accident by negotiating with insurance companies, recovering lost wages if you have any, and even getting you into a rental car if you need one. Call us today for a free consultation, and we'll get started helping you right away.
If you need help, get a hold of the Advocates. Call Josh at 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate.
Everybody knows that high school sports generate suspense, excitement, and drama. They also generate higher grade point averages, stronger work habits, and greater self-esteem.
Everybody knows that high school sports give us more value for our entertainment dollar.
They also give us leaders committed to strengthening communities right here in Montana. The true value of playing sports in school can't be measured in wins and losses or dollars and cents. Studies show that participation in sports, along with other extracurricular activities, is one of the best ways to teach leadership, cooperation, accountability, and other invaluable life skills. Don't just stand on the sidelines. Encourage the young people you know to get in the game. When you do, you'll be helping them get ahead in life. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Montana High School Association and the Montana Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Craig Haley, why do you consider the national guru of FCS coverage for Athlon Sports, has released his 2019 preseason FCS poll. It has Eastern Washington at number 4 behind North Dakota State, James Madison, and South Dakota State. UC Davis, the Go Big Sky champion, is at 5. Montana State is at 8. Weber State at 9. While Montana is at 23. The Hero Sports poll also came out today and has MSU at 14 with Montana unranked.
Montana picked up another transfer on Monday when cornerback Rayshawn Rowland announced he will join the Grizz for the 2019 season. The 5'10", 160-pounder, originally from Arcadia, California, notched 4 interceptions last season at the College of the Canyons, a junior college in Southern California.
Montana State football legend Bill Kohler, a longtime NFL assistant coach currently with the Denver Broncos, landed on the ballot for the National Football Foundation and College Hall of Fame's 2020 induction class. Kohler was an All-American in 1973, the MVP of the Senior Bowl in 74, and a first-round draft pick by the Bengals later that year. He played with the Bengals and Tampa Bay during his illustrious NFL career. And news coming out today in the Stanley Cup Finals, Zdeno Chara has a broken jaw. He is questionable for Game 5. Chara took a puck to the face in the second period of Game 4 and did not return to the ice in that game. In a related note, Zdeno is the greatest first name that you could have.
They always say congratulations. Work so hard, forgot how to vacation. They ain't never had the dedication. People hate and say we changing, look, we made it. Yeah, we made it. That was never friends.
Zdeno? Imagine if you were Zdeno Nuanez. You'd be a millionaire, maybe a billionaire.
Just because of how cool the name is, or what?
It's an unbelievable name.
It's a great name.
It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Hey, if you want to go over to the Sacagawea Hotel, stay and play, we are giving that away. All you got to do is give us a call, 329-1899. Give us your best story about that. Quick hitter, quick story. We won't keep you long. 329-1899. Give us your best story. You'll register. You'll be one of 5 registrants who will be in the running to win this thing at the end of the week. Coulter, we did a little too high, too low, sort of with the polls in the first segment, but I wanted to play a little game with you, too high, too low, or just right when it comes to the postseason in the NBA, specifically the NBA Finals. Tomorrow night, Game 3 from Oakland. Officially, Kevin Durant out for Game 3. I feel like there's a trend being set here. Klay Thompson is questionable for Game 3. And it seems obviously that Boogie Cousins is available. The Golden State Warriors, as of right now, a 5-point favorite at home as they return series even to 1 game apiece. With Durant out, with Klay Thompson questionable, 5 points in favor of the Golden State Warriors at home. Too high, too low, or just right in terms of a spread to you, Coulter?
I think it's too low.
You think that it should be higher?
I think I'd put it at about 9.
You know what I think? I'm going to be very dichotomous about this answer. I think that it's a 9 to a 10-point game with you, and I still think the spread's too low. I think the spread is too high. I think it's crazy that Toronto isn't getting more respect, especially with the questionable nature of Klay Thompson and all of that from Vegas. But I think a lot of people feel the way we feel. You're going back to Oakland, and it's all over but the shouting. I mean, this is the thing. It's so odd to me. I haven't thought about series in the light that I'm thinking about this series right now with Golden State, because Golden State's always Is there? We don't have a single exception, do we? In the last 4 seasons of Golden State being the road team in a series, they've only ever been the home team.
They've only ever been the home team.
So this is the first time I'm thinking to myself, let's just take the first 4 games as 4 games. The Golden State Warriors have been 3-1, up 3-1 in a series before, and everybody goes, "Oh, well, the series is over." But because they were on the road and lost the first game, people are like, "Wow, look at how good Toronto is. Look at how great they played." Tough game, but they only lost by 5 in game 2. I don't know how you want to, go about it. But my point is, splitting on the road is the goal of the road team, no matter who you are. Even if you are the team that has home court advantage, you want to go split on the road. Well, guess what? The Warriors have split on the road.
Yep.
And even though they haven't won at home yet, I think it's an overwhelming advantage. I think they've figured some things out. I think they are getting used to playing the Toronto Raptors and the difficulty that they present, and it is significant. I think they've done a phenomenal job, and I think they'll continue to do a great job, particularly defensively. But I don't think you're holding the Golden State Warriors down. And if they win 2 at home, guess what it is after 4? 3-1. Ball game. Just happened in a different order. So I got the Warriors. Now, could Toronto beat Golden State in Oakland? Certainly. Toronto both has the talent and I think the mental makeup to do it. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Well, and the Warriors splitting in Toronto makes the Warriors have home court advantage now.
That's right. Yeah.
Because now Toronto
3-2
is going to have to win in Golden State to win the series.
Yeah.
And that is a tall task.
But here, let me ask you this when it comes to home court advantage, because we talk about that, and that is all true. But in a 7-game series, you would never expect it to go every team that was at home won every game, right? The home team winning all 7 games is an anomaly.
I thought that was going to be the way that the Bucks-Raptors series played out, and then the Raptors just closed it and won in 6.
It seems to me, I don't think you've given away home court advantage until you lose 2 at home. If you lose 1 at home, that's okay because you can anticipate that you're going to win 1 on the road. That almost always over the course of a 7-game series, you have a winner on the road for each side especially in a 6 or 7 game series. Obviously sweeps and stuff like that. But so I even though they have as a matter of math given away home court advantage,
right?
Until they lose both in Oakland, I don't say that home court advantage has shifted back to Golden State. I don't think anybody has home court advantage in this series. I don't think anyone has it right now. But that could all change. I put the likelihood that Toronto wins tomorrow night or wins Game 4 at about 37%. But I put the likelihood that they win I'm saying each of those games taken individually, okay? But if you take them both, I think they have a 46% chance of winning one of the 2 games. Maybe 44. I'm right in there on this.
I'm trying to really take a step back and analyze this series under this premise.
Okay.
I don't think anybody thought Toronto was going to win the first game in the way that they did, where it was just it was a complete effort where they completely controlled the game from start to finish. I think that if people thought that Toronto was going to steal Game 1, I guess at this point they have the better record, so it's assumed that they should win Game 1 as the first finals game in Toronto history. You consider them the favorites, and they were a 1-point favorite. But I think that if it was a back and forth where they rallied late and they rode the momentum of the home crowd in a late run and all that, okay, good for the Raptors. But the fact that they won basically wire to wire, I think it gave people a pause, and then people, everybody that's watching the series said, well, maybe Toronto's better than we think they are. That said, I'm trying to analyze this from outside of that because we both picked the Warriors in 5. And a part of me thinks that the 20-0 run is going to be enough momentum to carry the Warriors to win the next 4. Or I guess win the next 3. And win 4 straight and close this thing out in 5. And if that happens, the memory of Game 1 will be gone.
Gone.
No one will remember any of that.
Yeah, I mean, here's what
Can you see Toronto winning a game in Oakland?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Not either of the next two, though.
What I'm saying is I wouldn't expect, if you were asking me to pick 10 games in a row in Oakland, I would pick the Warriors in all 10. But I mean, as statistics work, you know, the if you have a 30% chance of winning a game on the road, and I'm arbitrarily coming up with this number, in 10 road games, you're going to win 3 of them. So that even though in any individual game you would pick the team that you were, thought was most likely to win, that's not going to hold true. But yes, I do think the Warriors will win the next 2 at home. And it won't shock me at all if Toronto wins one of them. It would stun me if Toronto won them both. I mean, the absolute one that I just cannot see is Toronto going back to Toronto up 3-1. But if they won one of these, it wouldn't shock me. And the reason is this: they play really good defense, the Toronto Raptors do. And, aside from 8 minutes in the third quarter, they have been the better team in this series for really 7 quarters. And they beat Golden State by, 10 or something like that in game 1? 10 points?
Yep.
And then they lost by 4 or 5. This is not a team that I think is getting blown out. I think they have the gumption, and again, they have the talent too. Here's why I like this more than I've liked some of these Cavalier matchups. Greatest player in the world, LeBron James. When he had Kyrie, then you have another, all-star caliber player, and Kevin Love, who just seemed so odd and weird to me, trying to figure it out how to play in Cleveland with LeBron, and just looked so out of sorts very often. But a talented guy. But by and large, the talent in Cleveland through the floor. I mean, just bad. This is a bad basketball team buoyed by one of the greatest player of the generation and one of the great players of all time. Okay?
How irrelevant are all those guys that are in Cleveland now?
I mean, are you kidding me?
Gosh, I mean,
but that's my
George
point.
Hill escaped and became relevant again by getting with the Bucks. But Jordan Clarkson might never be heard from again
ever.
Larry Nance, I thought Larry Nance was like an up and coming, pretty good player, and then
he was.
And then
he still might be.
He still might be. We're never going to see him again.
And that's my point. But Toronto has good players 1 through 7, man. Good. And an elite player, obviously, in Kawhi.
Yeah. Right. No, Toronto's a lot. Well, it's like
broader.
I said after game 1. Veterans are still such an underrated portion of the playoffs. Toronto has such good veterans, and they do have good players, man. I think that Van Vliet is one of the most underrated backup guards in the
he's
league.
Exploded, man. He was not even drafted. He was the 13th guy out of 13 taken on the roster, and he's worked his way into 20, 25 minutes a game.
You're talking about
burying it.
Talking about guys that are rising to the occasion or ready to play. I mean, he is so not scared of Steph Curry. It's amazing.
It's great.
I mean, he's like stripped him and taken it the other way multiple times in this series.
Yep.
Yeah, no, Toronto has better talent than people give him credit for. Did you see DeMar DeRozan's comments today?
He's the sacrificial lamb for the rise.
DeMar DeRozan, man, you're a good player. Just shut your mouth, man. He's been crying about getting traded from Toronto since the day it happened. It's like, dude, you're playing for Pop.
It's the disillusionment of professional athletes.
It's so true. And it's such a prevalent thing in pro sports right now, too.
Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Too high, too low, just right. That's the game purportedly that we're playing. Here we go. Boogie Cousins minutes in game 3. He played 8 minutes in game 1, played 28 minutes in game 2, and really played 28 minutes to me because he played so well that he earned himself more minutes out there. 25 is the number I put on this. Over, too high, too low, or just right in terms of the minutes that Boogie is going to play in this game.
I think that's an interesting question because I just don't really know if you can determine that because Boogie playing elevated minutes was the counter in the chess game between the two coaches by Steve Kerr. How does Toronto counter then? Because Toronto's going to watch the tape. You could tell they didn't have much of a plan, and for Boogie. And when Boogie plays like he did, which is an atypical way of him to play, we always talk about the half-court sets and stuff like that. With the Warriors, when Kevin Durant's healthy, they run a lot of stuff through him out of the high post. I also heard a great point by Stephen A. Smith earlier today when we were driving around. He was saying that so much of the reason, I had not thought of this. I thought this was an excellent point to counter my notion that the Warriors are so much more pleasant to watch without Kevin Durant. I'm not a huge fan of ISO basketball. I am a gigantic fan of off-the-ball screens and movement like the Warriors do when KD's not in. But like he said, in an ironic fashion, when Kevin Durant is healthy, everybody in the league, and this started last year in the Western Conference Finals with the Rockets, and everybody replicated this. They basically said, hey, 3's worth more than 2. The motions and everything that Golden State runs leads to 3s for Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, so we're going to sell out denying that stuff and not let it happen. Therefore, we're going to let Kevin Durant have the one-on-one ISO out of the high post. Well, you give Kevin Durant that, thank you very much. I'm going to get my 2 every time. Yeah. And so it's not as if Kevin Durant is actually selfish or that he is disruptive of the style. It's just the premise of taking what the defense gives you. And if taking what the defense gives you is giving Kevin Durant the ball in the high post 18 feet from the basket, it's one of the great solutions that you can have.
How good are you if the coaches are like, our best option is to let Kevin Durant go ISO?
No doubt. And how impactful is the three-point shot, right?
Right.
But the thing about it is, with Boogie Cousins for so long in his career, he was either a pick-and-pop guy or a go-to-the-block, bang, gives buckets in the paint. And the fact that they played him the other night in that high post, when they first started doing that, I was like, that's innovative, but can he do it? And he proved, he had, 6 or 7 assists?
Yeah.
He had multiple one-handed backdoor passes to find cutters.
In the ball. Yeah.
Looked great. And so that was something that I guarantee you the Raptors didn't expect, because that's never been seen before out of Boogie Cousins in the scope of this Warriors team. So to answer your question, how many minutes? I'm not sure, because I think it all comes down to what's Toronto's answer for that. If they play Boogie Cousins, they start him again, they play him in the high post, Toronto will have an answer for that this time. With this many days to prepare, they will say, here's what we're doing. We're going to either trap him or you're just going to deny the backdoor cut. You're not going to let it happen. But then what's that lead to?
Yeah.
That leads to pick and pops with Steph. That leads to Steph coming off screens and shooting threes. So the counter that Toronto makes is going to be the interesting part. That's why Golden State is in line to win their 4th championship in 5 years. Because every counter you got, every game plan you can use to take something away, they got another answer. And they complement each other so well.
Somewhere during the course of Game 3, so this is not a stat that encompasses the whole game, but it was about midway through the game of Game 3, they showed, I believe it was 43 out of 54 made baskets had been assisted for Golden State.
Yeah, the Warriors had an assist on every made bucket in the second half last game.
A stat that they keep in hockey that they do not keep in the NBA, which I think they should start, is the secondary assist. And I realize, especially in basketball, it could be a bit of a rabbit hole, because you got multiple possessions where literally every guy touches the ball and the ball's just ripping around.
Right.
But it used to be, hey, John Stockton, dribble, cutter, Karl Malone, dish him the ball, bucket, assist, basket, easy. Yeah. Like, you just count them up. But in addition to having 6 or 7 direct assists, I think Boogie Cousins and multiple guys on that team, how many fast breaks has Draymond Green started where he is getting the bucket via the outlet pass? But the outlet pass to the guy, whoever's getting that outlet pass, is he actually the one making the assist. So it's 2 passes down the floor. The guy who started the run, doesn't get any credit. But I think there's multiple occasions where it's the first pass of 2 or 3 that was really the catalyst in the offense to get to the bucket. It went to the right person to get the defense behind on their rotation and to get the ball to the hole. Or, like I said, if you're pushing the ball up the floor in a hurry, I think you can start tracking a secondary and even maybe a tertiary assist category. I don't know if it needs to, we need to start talking about quintuple doubles and things like this because, I had 22 tertiary assists. But I think that there is room for that when clearly these guys are making great plays that are seeing into the future. They're looking ahead in time at what's going to happen and where the ball needs to go to rotate around to get to the hole.
I can't remember who the interview was with or what the forum was, but Kobe Bryant once had a hilarious interview where he was saying that if hockey assists counted, I would have the most assists in the history of the NBA. Because His whole premise was, I know where to pass it to, and then I know how to yell at the guy hard enough to make the next pass. One more, throw it to that guy.
Right.
Because Kobe could see it so much. And also, he's not the facilitator. He's always passing out away from the attention. But hilarious comment. But I do think there is a place for it. We'll see.
All right. Stu Tell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Hey, if you want to register, you want to go golfing, you want to go stay the night, you want to have a great Father's Day weekend, give us a call, 329-1899. 329-1899, very easy. Tell us your best dad anecdote. Pretty simple. 329-1899, do it right now. We can still register somebody today if you'd like to. Next.
Father's Day is fast approaching, and we know we have plenty of dads out there worth celebrating. And what's better than celebrating Father's Day with your pops by hitting the links?
No doubt. All I want to do is go golfing for Father's Day, and that's what we're going to do for one of you, right, Coulter?
We have a stay-and-play package that includes accommodations in a Lewis and Clark room at the historic, gorgeous Sacagawea Hotel in Three Forks and 2 18-hole rounds of golf at the Headwaters Golf Course.
Listen to Tutel and Nuanez all week long and call in with your best story about Dad to register.
Happy Father's Day from Tutel and Nuanez.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce two of our best tires ever just in time for summer. There's our exclusive open range AT that we believe is our quietest, smoothest, and best all-season traction tire ever, or the Reputation, our exclusive high-mileage premium passenger tire. Get $50 off alignment when you purchase a set of 4 open range AT or Reputation tires. Book an appointment today at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time only. See details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, who pump it up, pump it up.
Grab some protein in a cold drink today at Town Pump. Right now, you can get Sierra Nevada and New Belgium 12-pack cans or bottles for only $14.99. And if you're hungry, grab our 10-ounce Old Trapper Jerky for $10.99. Town Pump Food Stores, proud to be part of our community.
Town Pump, right down the road, pump it up, oh yeah.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, but we also know that you're going to pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it. Well, not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with a staff of specialists that can answer any question. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and, are you ready, lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
When you need a bank to help ramp up your savings strategy, look to your local bank, Opportunity Bank of Montana. Build confidence in your financial future when you create a rainy day cushion or take care of the nest egg you already have. Opportunity Bank offers options from basic savings to money market accounts and certificates with competitive rates. There's nothing like the feeling of progress, so let's get started today. Come see us at Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com. Member FDIC.
You're a big league fan. You expect big league service. At the Desperado, you get exactly that. With 35 flat screens, ice-cold brews on tap, and Missoula's #1 wings, you're free to sit back and enjoy every pitch. This summer, make the Desperado your baseball home away from home. Cool off after work, relax on the weekends, soak in some great food and drinks, and watch your team make yet another great push for October. And hey, if yours can't do it, there's plenty of other teams and fun to go around at the Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell across from the Y.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Hey, you alive over there? You all right?
Yeah, just stretching my back.
Stretching your back?
Yep.
Okay. Looked dangerously similar to falling asleep on the desk.
Oh, no, I'm not sleeping. I'm good. This is the day that I wanted afternoon caffeine more than anything, though.
It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web, 1029ESPN.com. There you can listen to the stream if you would like to. You can also call 329-1899. We'd be happy to have you as we roll through a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Online, YouTube, Tutel Nuanez, that's the channel. You can check us out there or SWX Montana TV. Hi, howdy. Great to be with you. If you missed anything in the show, check it out on the podcast. Podcast available on the TuneIn Radio app and on iTunes and on Spotify. It is available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. And Colter, the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel, they take care of all of their customers, but they got a lot for business travelers.
Absolutely, whether you're in town or out of town, Wingate by Wyndham got you covered. If you want to host a business conference there, they got great business rooms, whether it's for people that are coming to Missoula to meet you with your business, or if you want to just host there, or if you are traveling anywhere in the state, you can always use them as well. And they always take care of their regular business guests. They offer year-round rates for corporate travelers with bonuses of extra Wyndham reward points, and they also upgrade regular business guests for no charge whenever possible. But even though they offer great value and cool perks, their regular guests will tell you it's the service that keeps them coming back for more. Give Kim or Alicia a call and find out what they can do to help you with your business travel needs. Let the Wingate by Wyndham in Missoula make you feel at home even when you're not.
Colter, a couple of injury things to talk about. First of all, Andrew McCutchen, torn ACL, out for the year for the Philadelphia Phillies. McCutchen obviously had an outstanding run in Pittsburgh, has bounced around a little bit now later in his career, and I've always just loved watching McCutchen play baseball. Just one of the true athletes of the sport and a great player. He's, on the downside of his career in terms of age and all that kind of stuff, but a fun and interesting Phillies team with the addition of Bryce Harper. Obviously, this one bums me out. So our best to Mr. McCutchen and what will hopefully be a road back to the bigs. Because I think he's such a great athlete, great defensive center fielder, which he's been through most of his career. It would be a shame for this to be the end, but he is, who knows? It's late in his career to then have an injury like this take place. The other one, I don't know if you saw this in Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final last night, but Zdeno Chara.
I did see this.
Whew, this is bad. So officially now,
saw this right before I went to the show last night.
Officially a broken jaw for Zdeno Chara. He is questionable for Game 5. Only in hockey and only in the final would you break your jaw from a puck to the face and be questionable and not simply out for the next game. But one of those slap shot, put his stick down to block it like you do, 1,000 times. And this one, the angle was just wrong, and it ran right up the stick. And, straight to the jaw. He went down. You get the leaking, as they say, onto the ice. And he went off, and he came back, and you could tell. He came back with the full face guard and everything like that. Never opened his mouth, not even to breathe. You could see, as they would zoom in on him on the bench, that, he's out there for moral support. But this guy, he's not going back in the game, and that was confirmed by Coach Cassidy today, that they had officially removed him, the staff and the medical staff, from even a possibility coming back in that game. It's hockey. It's crazy. But, you break your jaw. I just don't know how he's available to come and do it. 39 years old, been with one of the stalwarts of the organization for the Boston Bruins for 15, 18, 19 years.
But if you break your jaw, you almost always have to have it wired shut. And so then that just impacts you for more than any other reason, the breathing.
Yeah, right.
Because you have to be able to breathe through your mouth when you're playing a high aerobic sport like hockey.
Didn't Kanye West rap with a wired jaw shut? He went through the wreck, and then he came back, and he was on the album, and he was like,
he has a song, Through the Wire, about it, but it's not actually. He's in the video with the wired jaw, but I don't think he actually rapped the.
I don't know, man.
Song.
I felt like there was a little bit of slurred speech in the thing that felt like maybe he couldn't get his mouth open all the way. Sipping the scissor, right? Because he couldn't eat food.
3-6 Mafia. The Sip and the Scissor is about something completely different.
No. Understood. I know he didn't come up with it, but these guys, they repeat other people out there doing the thing. Guaranteed.
Sip and the Scissor is like,
I don't eat the waffles, I just sip the scissor. That's the line. Look it up. It's on the graduate or graduation day, whatever it is. I'll bring it to you. I have the record. I will bring you the album. He says it, and it sounds very much like his jaw is, in fact, wired shut as he says it, not merely because he can't eat the food.
Sip and Scissor is what DeMarcus Russell did too much of.
Look, no argument. I get the reference. I understand it. He's taken it. That's why Kanye's a genius.
Kanye is a genius.
Well, let's pump the brakes there. He is the subject of the first episode of the second season of David Letterman's Netflix My Next Guest Needs No Introduction. How do you think the Letterman West interview goes?
Interesting. I think Kanye West is fascinating.
I don't disagree with that statement.
He's definitely. I mean, if you listen to, have you ever listened to his first album, College Dropout?
Yeah.
Have you ever
did I say Graduation Day?
That's the second.
That's the one that it's on is College Dropout.
Okay. I think you are right. I know you're right.
There's no question.
Okay. Sorry.
100% right.
Sorry. I mean, Kanye West just has a fascinating story of the way he broke into the entertainment business and the way he became famous and
hanging out with Dave Chappelle.
I mean, the fact that he's become like this such a lightning rod icon. He's one of the most famous people in the world, right? Did I ever tell you a story when I walked down the street with Kanye West?
Are we
Seattle?
finally going to agree about this? About that we're on the same level about somebody's level of fame?
Kanye West is one of the most famous people in the world.
He's one of the most famous people in the world. Yeah. I don't know where exactly I'm going to sit here and rank him, but yes, he's very well known because even the Kardashian crew knows about this guy.
Oh, gosh. I can't wait for our latest Kardashian Dennis Rodman update later in the week.
That's right.
Our new hit segment.
Carolyn's going to come on. She's going to help us out.
She's got all the goods, all the juice.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know anything about Kanye West. I do not. I just know that he's out there. He's doing his thing.
Did I ever tell you about when I walked down the street with Kanye West in Seattle?
You did mention this once to me.
It's great. I'll tell you the more full story tomorrow.
Okay. We'll look forward to that. Tommy, how we doing back there?
It's a real dumpster fire back here, Ryan.
People probably think that this is just such a, we're just too good. It's too good. It's amazing.
Hey, you know what happened? We were on the hour for 2 more hours today.
All the spots hit, everything.
Everything. Tommy, great work. If nobody knew, they wouldn't know. See you tomorrow.
Are longing to stray right through the very heart of it. New York. I want to wake up in a city that doesn't sleep and find I'm king of the hill, top of the heap. These little town blues